Hi everyone. So coming to our mains preparation answer writing part, and this is history, both GS history and optional history. So there are lots of aspirants confused on how to write a well balanced, decent answers in history, especially in optional part. So some things are very important when it comes to history optional answers. For example, when you write answer, I will tell you this all I have taken from our toppers, or what the aspirants applied in the paper, which helped them to score well or a good score in the optional. So few things I would say that always when it comes to history optional answers, lots of questions are argument driven questions. You are supposed to present your arguments, counter arguments, to justify the stand or to elaborate, examine, or comment on certain issues, certain topics. So, most cases, what the students do is they are simply listing out various arguments. For example, Plashi was a betrayal, Buxar was the actual battle, or Plashi was just a time pass, Buxar was actual battle. Suppose a question is like that. Then you will just present the argument supporting Plashi was just a time pass, or it was a skirmish, or it was an outcome of betrayal, and this Buxar was a decisive battle. You are presenting the arguments. The problem is evidences are missing, or the sources are your arguments, your points, your counterpoints must be substantiated by evidences, examples, and of course sources. So when you write answers, conceptual clarity is very much important. Whatever you write, conceptual clarity is very much important. Whatever the demand of the question, central demand of the question, that must be addressed well, and the parts, subparts of the questions must be addressed very well. Also, importance must be given to the directives like analyze, critically analyze, evaluate, substantiate. Those things must be given importance. Okay, so always engage with the central idea or the core demand of the question. That is very much important. How the conceptual clarity. And similar way, whenever you present your arguments or counter arguments, especially in the history optional question papers, I mean when you write answers in history optional papers, make sure your arguments or your counter arguments, your points to substantiate your stance must be backed by evidences, examples, or sources. That's very important. Now, coming to this contextual framework, again, I would say that most of the answers are missing these interlinkages when you are discussing different parts or when you are discussing different aspects. Interlinkage between or among these different issues you discuss in the same question, that is missing. Or from one issue to another issue, when you go, this interlinkage part is missing. So make sure that your answer should have a proper framework, a broader framework you set for your answer. For example, industrial revolution first happened in England. Say, what are the political, economic, social, cultural, intellectual, technological causes for the first occurrence of industrial revolution in England? Must have a structure, must have a framework for maybe social dimensions, political dimension, or technological dimensions, or international dimensions, or economic dimensions. See, have a framework, not the same, but it varies, but still you must have a proper framework, you must have a proper contextual framework your answer should have. Next thing I would say that historiographical insight in your answers. Historiographical insights, I always say that historiography is something which is missing. You know, what are the different historians narratives, historians interpretations on issues. For example, you are answering a question about Ashoka's Dhamma. Okay, there is like different Romila Thapar or R. Sharma or what is called this like Sheikh, sorry, Ubender Singh. There are different historians. They have different opinions about Ashoka's Dhamma. So if a question is about Ashoka's Dhamma, whether it was an administrative tool or a religious policy, you are asked to analyze, you are asked to evaluate something or critically evaluate something. Of course, where historiography, that is very much important. I mean, understanding any concepts from different historians' narratives, that is very much important. That kind of an insight you have to give in your answers, so that examiner feel okay, you are writing very decent answers. So historiographical insights, that's very much important. I mean, that will indicate your deeper understanding of any issues you are answering in the questions. Okay, there are different historiographies, subaltern historiography or Marxist historiography, or this colonial historiography, nationalist historiography. So different historians and their narratives on various issues, that will give you, that will help you to fetch more marks. And next important thing is that yeah, this analysis part is missing from many of your answers. Analysis is like, yeah, you are giving descriptions. For example, 1857 revolt that brought some administrative, that brought some changes or administrative changes, or it is significant in the history of this modern India, something like that. Or for example, a question, this colonialism or colonial policies impacted this rural peasantry positively, negatively. If this is the question, you are giving description, positive impact, negative impacts, giving descriptions. But the problem is analysis part is missing. So I would always say that instead of simply giving the descriptions, make sure that you do that analysis. You know, the cause and effect analysis, or maybe comparisons analysis. Make sure analysis is done. Then only it will indicate your deeper understanding of, you know, topics or areas which are gonna answered in the paper. Then another important element is that your like additional things you do. For example, to impress your examiner, you can use certain illustrative aids, like for example, maps. Mostly when you deal with the questions of this ancient India, medieval India, even modern India, you can use maps. You can use maps, you know, you can use flowcharts. So such kind of things can that will give an edge to your answer. Similar way, yeah, this language or this structure paragraphs, or maybe the headings, subheadings, or underlining these very key words of answers, all those things matters. Yeah, I have seen so many people giving these headings, subheadings, some people not giving. But I think a coherent flow of your thought, that could be more well expressed through using this kind of this headings, subheadings, or underlining the keywords, that will help a lot. So take care of these aspects. And always conclusion, you have different types of conclusions, you know. Open-ended conclusion is something which is mostly used by us. So even if introduction is compromised, conclusion shouldn't be compromised. To take care. And question may have two parts, three parts. Make sure those all parts of the question is equally addressed in the body part. So these aspects you take care. This is something I'm sharing for especially history optional students. Then just to see a question, illustrate the foundational distinctions between Buddhism and Jainism. There is a question, illustrate the foundational distinctions between Buddhism and Jainism. Of course, you can just give a background, or you can just introduce this Buddhism, Jainism, the religious intellectual movement of the 6th century BC. Just give some basic definitions or basic ideas on this Buddhism, Jainism in the intro, and give a hint that you're gonna discuss these similarities, distinctions between these various facets of this, or maybe what are the similarities and dissimilarities of Buddhism, Jainism on various facets. You know, that idea you give in the introduction. So first you can present, they are asking for foundational distinctions between Buddhism, Jainism. In order to present that foundational distinctions, you can present the similarities first. Yeah, both these religions, you can use, yeah, they are non-theistic religions. They say no to the authority of the Vedas. Yes, both focused on this detachment from material possessions. Yes, both focused on ahimsa, both focused on asceticism. Okay, these ideas you can give. Then coming to the distinction part, you can just take certain keywords in order to distinguish Buddhism, Jainism. One is that belief in the soul concept, Atman or soul. So Buddhism rejects the idea of this eternal soul, but Jainism believes in eternal soul, okay, immortal soul. Then regarding liberation, Buddhism has a middle path and Jainism has an extreme ascetic practice or extreme practices recommended by Jainism like Sandara Sanlegana for liberation. Non-violence is also, it's a moral principle in this Buddhism, but coming to this Jainism, it practices extreme form of non-violence, avoiding all harmful things like what is called thoughts, actions, what all is causing this violence that must be avoided. So extreme importance given to non-violence in this Jainism. Then coming to this caste system view also, Buddhism is against caste system, or it has more strong stand on this caste system, totally against caste system and the admission of all people to the Sangha, women or Varnas. But Jainism is a bit more diplomatic and silent over caste. Coming to three Ragnas in Buddhism, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, Jainism, right faith, right knowledge, right action. So this is the way, make sure that you address to the central demands of the question. And for example, this is just I'm sharing you here. When you say the distinctions, of course, you have to substantiate your arguments with examples and evidences or with the sources. Now, coming to sources, history optional, when you give a sources, you can use both the primary sources and second. Primary sources, archaeological evidences, inscriptions, coins, or some original literary works, etc. Secondary sources are mostly the views of accounts of these modern historians. You can give a very fitting conclusion, accepting these and admiring these diversities of contributions of significance of this Buddhism, Jainism, okay, or to Indian culture or Indian philosophical thought, etc. There was another question: basic features of temple architecture in India. What are the basic features of temple architecture in India? Also compare Nagara style with the Dravida style of temple architecture. So temple architecture, yes, it's a hot topic. Lots of renovations, lots of initiatives for making it into heritage list. So temple architecture, temple renovations or temple debates, lots of things are still in the news. So of course, temple architecture, it's a favorite area for UPSC. Here they are asking basic features of temple architecture. Also compare Nagara Dravida styles of temple architecture. A 15 marks question. So you can simply say the temple architecture, history of temple architecture or evolution of temple architecture, its main stakeholders, patrons, or its regional identities, etc. You can say. Coming to basic features of temple architecture, of course, there is Shikhara concept is there or Vimana concept is there, that tower. Garbhagriha, main deity room. Mandapa is pillared hall, assembly hall. Ardha Mandapa lying next to Mandapa. Andrala is joining point between Garbhagriha and Mandapa, vestibular tunnel. Pradikshinapada, circumambulatory passageway. Then this what is called a boundary wall, Panchayadan style. So many features of this temple architecture that you can present there. Second part is comparison of features, Dravidian style, Nagara style. We know that Nagara has some features, Dravida has some features. So what are the features of Nagara style? What are the features of Nagara style? We know that its tower is Shigara, it's beehive shaped tower. Dravida is Vimana, which is pyramidal, step to pyramidal tower. And there is a stone platform or a upraised platform. It's a common feature of Nagara that is missing in this Dravida. Boundary walls or gateways missing in Nagara, but boundary walls, gateways called Gopurams are present in Dravida. Garbhagriha, the Pradikshina Pada around the Garbhagriha that is always covered, the circumambulatory passageway, covered Pradikshina Pada. In Dravida style, it is open. Temple tanks are mostly missing in this Nagara style, but temple tanks or water reservoirs, temple tanks are enclosed within the temple complex in Dravida style. So this is the way with some examples: Kendriya Mahadeva temple, Dashavadara temples, Nagara styles, Mahabalipuram Shore temple, Brihadeshwara temple, Meenakshi temple, Dravida style. So this is the way in a table you can present this comparison of the features of Nagara and Dravida and give a very fitting conclusion. Very fitting. Their overall significance or their contributions to India's rich cultural, architectural diversities, or heritage. So in all these answers, and what I say is that make sure that very straightforward questions are there or some very rich analytical questions are there. If the question is very complicated or it is analytical, make sure that or it demands your stand when you present your arguments or counter arguments. Make sure that you give sufficient examples or sufficient sources to substantiate your stand. Also, you include the historiography part in your answers. So just go on. Coming to answer writing, I always say that your continuous practice matters a lot. Give lots of practices. Answer writing, make it a daily activity. Regularly, you practice answering. It will save you. It will help you to score best marks in your mains papers. Okay, so regular practice along with your content revision, regular practice of questions that matters a lot. Thank you.
Gallant IAS, chasing your passion to ace.